So I want to start off with this slide that just recently won World Press Photo of the Year from National Geographic. These are African migrants. I'm going to do a cleaner slide. In Djibouti, basically trying to get cell signal. I think this is really kind of the world that I live in, the world that we live in now, the challenges of trying to reach the other 5 billion internet users as all these other emerging countries start to get lit up. Literally, their cell networks get built out. So I'm Will Sullivan, journalism. I'm at aboutme./Will Sullivan if you want to learn more. And this organization that I work for that only, I think, 3 people in the world ever know what it is called the Broadcasting Board of Governors. It's a very unique organization, and this position was really unique when I came to it. I was previously working for Lee Enterprises, kind of focused for newspaper chains on building mobile products for them. Came to the Broadcasting Board of Governors and was doing all radio and TV, all international, and all in countries that don't have free press or free and open internet. So it was a very big shift from going kind of Midwest and Western, small, mid-sized markets to global and around the world. As I mentioned before, I was an RJI Fellow, so it's great to be back and definitely see how the program's evolved and it continues to grow. Former Online News Association board member also. So who and what are we? You might be a little more familiar with at least 1 or 2 of these brands. These are the brands under the Broadcasting Board of Governors that we operate. The Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Marti Noticias, which is our Cuba network, Radio Free Asia, and the Middle East Broadcasting Networks, which operates Al Hurra and Radio Sawa. And the countries that we cover, as you can see, are Africa, Asia, Middle East, South America, Russia, East Europe, Cuba, Asia, a lot of kind of emerging markets, and we're spread around the world, about 4,000 journalists total, about 1,000 based in DC where I'm currently headquartered. The way to kind of explain what we are is we're sort of the BBC World Service, except for the US, except for we don't really broadcast and focus on broadcasting to the US. We focus on countries that don't have a free and open internet, free and open press. So we're kind of sort of like the BBC. We have a very similar name, so people confuse us frequently, especially when you're looking down, you see BBG, and the C, they missed the hook. So we're set up, we're in more than 100 countries, 61 languages. We have more than 84 news language services. You can see there's 61 languages, but 84 language services. Some of those brands overlap. Voice of America has coverage around the world, and they cover some areas that Radio Free Asia does, and each kind of has a different focus. Some are more regional, some are more country-centric. In total, we have a 203 million weekly audience across all of our networks. So we're here at this Mobile First event, which is really great to see people starting to use this phrasing and get interested in this in journalism. One of the challenges that Jim kind of mentioned is I'm kind of a mobile-only organization. A lot of our users didn't win the birth lottery and weren't born in countries where there's wired internet, where there's a computer in their home everywhere. So they're dealing with the global digital divide. And basically, if you look at the countries that are in yellow, gray, and light orange, this is kind of where we focus and where a lot of the challenges and I think opportunities are for future media organizations. You've seen Facebook starting to embrace this with their purchase of WhatsApp for $19 billion, which blew away some people, but it's been something that we've been tracking for a really long time and focused on in these emerging markets because it's just so widespread. A lot of these countries, there's more people with mobile devices than toothbrushes, which is a really interesting statistic and kind of shows how they're kind of grappling with this new evolution. They're getting the new technology, but they don't have stable infrastructure. Like when I was in Africa, in Nigeria, power would regularly go out, which is really just odd to have that kind of as part of your life. Like, oh, power just went out for about 5 minutes. And what's great about mobile devices is you're not tethered to a computer that will immediately shut down. So you've got a battery built in. You can kind of keep working, keep moving forward. But this is not a challenge that I think is unique just to us. I mean, I think a lot of people here that are very US focused can apply some of these lessons and some of these tools. Really early on in my career, when I was working in Florida, where we were getting pummeled by hurricanes at the Palm Beach Post, we started to see this kind of trend where mobile-only audiences would come to us, especially surge during times of need when power was not plentiful and supplies were challenging. We had a publication called La Palma, which was focused on kind of the Spanish community there, and especially around storm times, our traffic would surge. And this was, back in 2000, in like 2000s, when phones were just starting to kind of evolve. So we're serving the other 5 billion, and again, they're kind of wrestling with the challenge of making that digital divide jump, that leap into technology, but not having the infrastructure set up. So like in Thailand here, I took a personal trip last summer, backpacking around Asia, and this is an example. Like they have the Nokia Lumia 620, like the big bad Windows mobile phone, the iPhone 5, the Samsung Note and Galaxy S3, and the woman, waiting on her phablet. But they're kind of, they don't have a home computer, they don't have home wired internet. This is their first interaction with the internet, is through digital devices. And in a lot of our countries, the mobile audiences, there's a lot of news organizations that are really getting pumped about, making that jump over the 50% barrier. But in many of our countries, we're already seeing that because it's the first interaction. I mean, these are tech-savvy users, but they're not America tech-savvy. This was actually, there was a guy at South by Southwest. He's on a mobile phone, wearing Google Glass, on a Segway. And I saw this, I found this later. I saw him and I was just so in awe, like I wanted to like throw my phone at him, but also ask him like, what are you doing? Like, what are you looking at? Because he's looking at his phone and still going along. It's crazy. So we're not this tech savvy, but they're very tech savvy, and I think people kind of underestimate the potential in these audiences, but not organizations like Facebook, not organizations like Google. They're realizing the potential here for growth, and especially as these countries start getting lit up. They don't have to lay the copper wires, the infrastructure that we've had and taken for granted. They can build cell towers much quickly and scale up faster. So now that these countries are being lit up, and they have essentially this is from the Buffalo News. It was researched by Trending Buffalo, but it's just a perfect example of like 1991. Think back in Seinfeld days. I mean, I don't know, there's Seinfeld fans here. Like, I watch the shows and I think like, man, if they had cell phones back then, like they would never have gotten lost in that, the parking lot. Like they could have called Uber. They could have like used an app and like marked where they were parking and then gotten back. They could have used Amazon Prime and had things shipped directly to the house or something. But the age we live in is amazing. But this is like a perfect example of these countries that have had tech challenges that haven't had all these other devices that they had to purchase and kind of go through the adoption and transition. Instead, now they have a smartphone that can take all this and basically put it in one package that goes in their pocket. And a lot of our countries that we focus on have many challenges. Like I mentioned, the infrastructure, bandwidth is a huge issue. Technology becoming stable and kind of being sort of the afterthought of the developed world is a challenge. And there's also countries like the Ukraine, which we've been in for 60 years, hostile governments and a lot of challenges that our journalists face. So it's a really unique position to be in. So basically, I'm here to tell you there's no silver bullet. If you came and thought, oh, I'm going to get responsive design from Will Sullivan, that's going to be how we're going to do it. There is not one by any means. Each of these countries provide such a unique challenge and have so many different facets to them that there's a lot of solutions. So I'm going to talk about some of those solutions we're using. I can't go crazy deep because I only have 20 minutes, but we can definitely talk afterwards. And I'm really open to hearing and learning, and we're really open to sharing with other organizations what we're doing because we need help. I mean, there's only so many people that are really trying to push into these countries, trying to do things. So we're reaching out to Facebook, reaching out to Google, looking for partners, looking to share best practices. So our mobile strategy, basically, I've been there about 1.5 years, but this is kind of what we're working on at the moment. Dedicated mobile websites. This is one of the first things I launched. And people are like, oh, responsive is the new hotness. Like, why are you doing mobile dedicated sites? And for our countries, bandwidth and performance is so important. So we have really stripped down versions. I'll show you examples in a second. We're working on a really tight responsive strategy that uses server-side to basically detect the device and not send down huge images. That's one challenge about a lot of people that run responsive websites. They're 60, some of them up to like 60 megs. And when you're on a mobile phone and you're paying $20 per megabyte, you cannot do that to a user. So we have to be really, really smart about how we're building our websites. especially across platform and leveraging our content management system. We build applications, and we really try and be smart about why we're building applications. We're not just building applications to slap content up. Why does this have to be an app is what I'm asking people all the time, because everybody wants a pony. They all come to you and want this app for this and this and this and this. So you have to be really smart about it, balancing those needs and what the hardware and native operating system can offer. Build interactive voice response systems, have massive networks of affiliates and syndication. We're experimenting with digital syndication or digital messaging, ebooks, even low bandwidth things like PDF and SMS. I'll talk to you a little bit about that also. The big keys for what my mobile strategy is focused on is performance. Everything performance, 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 because it's literally costing users both their time and their money, and substantial. We're so blessed to live in countries like this where so many people have unlimited bandwidth that's free and open. So your free application, our free application, the biggest one we have right now is 4 megabytes. And I'm trying to get that down further as small as possible because in Nigeria, it's $20 a megabyte. That's an $80 application for them to download. So you really got to kind of shift your mind shift, pull yourself out of the US and developed countries and how blessed you are in this environment. We have to build for multi-platform, both hardware and software. Each country has different adoption rates. We put a lot of chips on Android early, and that's paid off. That platform keeps continuing to grow. iOS has been growing. We've actually done some projects also with Symbian, which people, when I tell them we've done that, they're like, isn't that a dead platform? Don't they not make that anymore? And like, yes, they literally shut the store, and we were one of the last applications to get in the store, but our app's done very well in there, actually. It's a weird world. So we have a lot of other challenges with multiple languages. I mean, languages that for a lot of time, and it's getting a lot better. I mean, especially as Google, Apple, all these organizations start to recognize, I think what Nokia did really early on, their App Store process is you can do a lot of customization, and I think Google and Apple are expanding that greatly. But multiple language support, building applications that don't have native support in the native iOS for some of these languages that we're building. These African languages that, until like 50 years ago weren't really written. There's just a lot of challenges with that. And typography sets is a big challenge. Data costs I mentioned before, really embracing low tech and legacy tools. And again, we've got challenges of hostile governments and internet circumvention. We're trying to build to become much more crisis focused so that we can help provide, like in Ukraine when big news happens in some of these countries, because we are in many of these countries, like we have the only Pashto app, like we're one of the few news organizations in a lot of these countries that are regularly in there. We're not parachuting in when something goes wrong. We've been in Ukraine for 60 years. So it takes a lot of work, but it's rewarding work. So some examples, dedicated mobile websites. Again, this is what our approach right now. We're building towards an adaptive responsive approach, but we've got the desktop, the mobile, and then ultra mobile that basically strips out all images, trying to keep our sites lower than 200K. Overall, the main site, less, around a meg or less. This is, a big challenge and a big focus for us, and we leverage our CMS across all our platforms that helps us do this very well. Applications. This is one area that we've gotten some recognition recently. The Global Mobile Awards, the GSMA, largest mobile organization in the world. We're named finalists for Best Mobile Publishing Platform for specifically the VOA app, which serves 43 languages, which is unheard of in news organizations. I think the next largest is about 9. And that includes also right to left. So when you think about standard kind of English design, but then you have to basically flip everything and all the interactions for Arabic and many of the other languages, it's quite a challenge. So we're balancing kind of these dual worlds where they're getting into the kind of the new modern technologies, but they're also dealing with being in an emerging market. So we're building in low bandwidth mode. We're building in offline saving, which is an incredibly popular feature that we've started to play up a lot more because we didn't realize how much people really wanted it. We really focus on a small download package. I mean, some of these applications like Facebook, depending on your device, can be up to 50 megs. And when you've got kind of a low-end Android device that only has 200 megabytes of total memory, and your Facebook takes 50 megs, like people are going to have to make calls on what they're going to install. So we try and keep that binary file very small, very lean. we use CDNs around the world, which is pretty standard media procedures to make sure everything's loading fast. And we try and support a very wide install base from Android 2.3 and above to iOS 5 and 7 and above, mobile and tablet form factors. And like I mentioned, we also launched a Symbian application for kind of focus on Africa and the Middle East, where there's still a heavy install base of Symbian users. Because if you've ever had a Nokia phone, those things are built like tanks. Like you can throw it on the ground, pick it up, and still make calls. The other secret, well, not a secret, but the thing that I think surprises a lot of folks in the U.S. is FM is like the killer app on a lot of mobile phones in like Africa, and that's because in the U.S. we don't have a lot of phones that come with this. I've heard lots of different theories about why US phones don't have them. Like my original Nexus 1 has an FM tuner in it, and I had to root it and install a CyanogenMod to basically get the FM tuner turned on. But this, especially that we operate lots of radio networks around the world, this is very handy to be able to send them information over the FM transmitter in their mobile phone, and then also engage with them through digital messaging and social media. We're building experiments in interactive voice response, which is very techy, but if you've ever been on voicemail, this is essentially voicemail on steroids. This is movie phone. This is a call tree. Basically, you call in, listen, press 1 for breaking political news, press 2 for to leave a comment about your thoughts about the election. It's basically building call trees in and over the cellular networks, using mobile devices to engage with users in kind of a low bandwidth community. We do digital publications, and this really blew my mind when I started working there, is especially in Cuba, PDFs are like really popular. Like literally handing around flash drives of PDFs. I thought Dave would love the Mickey Mouse. Dave and I used to be roommates here when we were in ArcGIS. Peer-to-peer, literally handing each other devices to distribute EPUBs, PDFs, media files is popular in some of these really low bandwidth countries where they don't have 3G infrastructure. And again, so thinking about offline and how you can engage on the digital device, but send things through Bluetooth, through peer-to-peer tools, I think is super critical. And digital messaging and SMS. SMS can be very expensive. Digital messaging, WhatsApp, WeChat, all these messaging services that are blossoming right now, and especially kind of in the social sphere, there's now this kind of new age of peer-to-peer social engagement that's growing. That Corey Hike from Washington Post just had a really great post about, I was reading on the way here, about how it's kind of this new area of where everything's been so open and like a fire hose of content. Now people are starting to get more direct relationships. So we're doing experiments with this, especially in Africa where WhatsApp's huge, to engage with users that way and directly send information back and forth. So we've got this kind of portfolio, and this is like sort of a chart I kind of built basically for all these different approaches that we take throughout the world. The challenge is there's not a single bullet, but you have to be able to support sort of the low-end flip phone from the olden days, all the way up to sort of enriched desktop experiences, and kind of have that brand across all platforms. It is really challenging, but it's really exciting. We live in an amazing time, and especially to see these countries that for so long have not had the technology or the ability to have the power of all the world's information in their pocket. It's just an amazing time. I'm really excited and really stoked to hear what you guys have to say, and would love to talk more. So I think I've got 1 minute. I can take one question maybe or something. If anyone has any. I'm sorry I ripped through this really fast.
My question is real simple. You have a mobile-first continent. In terms of the migration in North America, and in terms of content, optimizing content for mobile, what do you think is the most important thing to optimize content when you do have more different platforms?
Well, being on CDNs that do adaptive bit rates are huge. But the most basic level, images. I mean, images are so popular. They work across cultures, and doing just really smart image resizing. It sounds so simple, but it's so critical. And there's so many websites that will dump up on their WordPress. They'll just upload straight out of their nice 10 megapixel iPhone. Full res images, and the CMS will not actually resize the image. It'll just be that 10 megapixel image scrunched down, and again, like it's $20 a megabyte, like $20 a megabyte. That image is 4 megabytes probably. That's $80. You just ruined someone's life for a month, and like they can't do anything now. They don't have any money because so it really being smart about imagery sizing, performance. That's something that I just keep really emphasizing, and it's something that is so hard because we just take it so for granted. But that's the huge opportunity, I think, is really being performance focused. And I mean, Google has penalized people because they're not fast, and the sites are slow, and there's kind of a drumbeat group that is starting to push this, but I don't think it's pushed hard enough. I don't think people realize the reality of the rest of the world. So, thank you.